All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Garrett Bruce, Chair for the ESA Sales and Marketing Professionals Group. I'd like to thank you all for joining us for our quarterly 321 webinar series. Today, we're very excited to be joined by Jay Stuck, CEO of SecureWatch24, who will be presenting today's topic, Door Knocking and Cold Calling, What You Need to Think About When You Think About It. A few quick housekeeping notes before we get started. During the presentation, all lines will be muted. So please submit your questions via the chat log, and we'll address them in the order they were received during the Q&A session directly following the presentation. Also, stick around, and at the conclusion of the presentation, we'll provide you with instructions on how to receive CEU credits for attending the webinar. So Jay is one of the leading sales and marketing C-level executives in the United States. He's currently the Executive Vice President of Sales and Chief Marketing Officer at SecureWatch24 in New York City, one of the fastest growing dealer integrators in the United States. He's previously served as the VP of Residential Sales at Guardian Protection Services in Pittsburgh, overseeing a 130-plus person sales organization covering 18 states, which is one of the largest privately owned security companies in the U.S. and ranked in the top 10 in size. Prior to managing his own sales support and marketing agency in Palm Beach, Florida, Stuck was responsible for all worldwide advertising, internet marketing, and corporate communication functions for ADT Security Services as the VP of Global Brand Marketing. He was awarded Sales Leader of the Year by Honeywell First Alert in 2009, again in 2010, and is a frequent presenter with ESA and at ESX. So Jay, we'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule. At this point, I'll kick the presentation over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Garrett. I appreciate it, and I want to thank ESA and Jackie for putting this together. I mean, these are quarterly webinars that ESA puts on, and I think they're very important to the sales and marketing professionals out there. You know, I don't know about you folks, but I'm always learning how to do my job a little better every day, and you know, it's through these kinds of seminars that I know I learn a lot of stuff. And hopefully today, after the next 45 minutes, you can look back and say, hey, you know what, Stuck gave me a couple of good ideas. So thank you all. Cold calling, team. I'm here to tell you, it is not a science. It is more an art. And based on my experience, you know, Garrett kind of gave you an overview of my background, and it seems like I can't seem to hold a job. Okay, I seem to have a whole lot of different types of jobs and experiences, but that has given me exposure to a lot of different cultures and a lot of different door-knocking cultures. And I'm pleased to see that there are a number of folks from a lot of different dealers and integrators on the call. And you know, not everybody works for the ADTs of the world. Not everybody has the luxury of spending millions of dollars a month in terms of trying to generate leads. And instead, most of us, the 13,000 other security companies that are out there, have to do things the old-fashioned way. We got to knock up sales. And ordinarily, it's probably going to be about 80% of the time that we are finding our own leads and our own sales, and maybe 20 or 30% of the time that the company is actually going to be able to provide a lead. So I'm very blessed in that I have teeth in a number of those kinds of environments where, you know, we had to go out and find the sales. And if you're going to eat in the morning that day and you're going to try to feed your family, you got to go out and knock a couple of doors and do some door hangers. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the kinds of things that I've run into over the last few years. As it relates door knocking, and just some, you know, sort of do's and don'ts and some things to be aware of. I mean, first of all is hiring. And again, my experience is that you cannot have somebody door knocking 100% of the time. Those folks will burn out quickly. And it's the biggest problem that I had in managing a 130+ person sales organization in about 17 states, all doing door knocking, was the hiring and the constant turnover. it was not unusual to hire 10 people and lose 8 over the first 90 days. And when no matter how hard you train them up, no matter how hard you coach them, no matter how hard during the interview process you try to screen them, and do these folks have a predilection for sales, and you explain to them up front during the interview process that, listen, this is hard work, you're going to be going door to door, you're going to be doing this, 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 and this, you still have a fantastically huge attrition rate. So one of the first pieces of advice that I have for everybody in the call is that hiring is an all-the-time thing, not a sometime thing. And if you are running a sales organization, you have constantly got to be interviewing, particularly a door-knocking sales organization. You have constantly got to have a folder in your desk of likely candidates. And even if you talk to them 30 or 60 days ago, if you need somebody, you call them up and say, hey, listen, I know what your situation is, but I talked to you 60 days ago. Did you find anything? Are you still on the beach? What's the deal? So you're always hiring, and the phrase that I have used is that you hire in the masses, you put them in classes, and you fire their asses. The bottom line is that they've got to perform, and I'll train you for a month or so. I'll ride with you. I'll do what I got to do in terms of trying to get you up to speed in another 30 days. But at the end of 90 days, I expect that you're producing. I expect you're selling. And you know what? You probably, at that point, if you're not happy with the job, you have self-selected out. I'd rather pluck chickens than go door to door kind of thing, and that's fine. I mean, but I'd rather learn that sooner rather than later. And I expect productivity after 90 days. So, given the fact that hiring is an all-the-time process, and that you're constantly looking for people, what are the kinds of people that you look for? Well, personality, obviously. I mean, you've got to have people that can take rejection. You've got to have people that can be pleasant, okay, at the front door, or pleasant on a telephone. You got to give them a bunch of training. But at the end of the day, it's all about activity, and we'll talk a lot more about that. And that is that, the only scientific part of this is that we had it pretty much down to an Excel spreadsheet as to how many doors knocked resulted in how many appointments, which resulted in how many sales, how many pieces of postcards or direct mail were mailed, how many door hangers had to be hung. I mean, there were some algorithms in terms of these kinds of activities that I can share with you. A number of lead gen programs, as I said, and not everybody is, and there's nobody alive that can just go door to door every day and not be ready for a lobotomy. So you've got to keep up the energy, and you've got to work the referrals and testimonials, and we'll talk a lot more about that. So like I said, 80% of the time, you got to be knocking up the sale, okay? And it's how to do that and how to persevere. One of the ways to do that is to make sure that, because it is a hard job, and it is a really hard job, take that back. It is like a job that I'm not sure I could do, okay, anymore, because it is really difficult. It's actually physically demanding. So you got to sweeten it. You got to make sure that the people that are working for you, going door to door, all right, have an incentive. Now, team, I'm here to tell you, I don't work for kicks. I work for cash, okay? And yeah, recognition is great. I like that. But at the end of the day, I still got to pay some bills. I've got a couple of wives and several bartenders that rely on me, okay, for a living. And so I've got to maintain a certain level of income. And you've got to design a program that rewards success as it relates door knocking. That you've got to drive it through commission performance, drive it through sales, and you ordinarily we were constantly experimenting almost every year in my previous jobs with what is the right sort of combination between salary and bonus. And we ended up with, we pretty much would maybe pay a couple of grand a month in terms of a salary, but most of your money was going to be made through add-ons as well as through basic package sales. And it's got to be an easily understood compensation package too. I'm about the dumbest guy on this call, and if I can understand it, pretty much anybody can. And you'd be amazed at the number of commission plans that are out there that are, Byzantine in terms of complexity. You got to make it easy. So contracts, site sellers, you got to make sure that the folks that you're putting into the field have the right materials, and you got to have the installation teams ready to go. I mean, one of the secrets of the summer sales programs, frankly, is that they're able to do a very, very, very quick install. And yeah, there's the right of 3-day rescission and all that, where the customer can change their mind. But the bottom line is, if I make a sale, particularly a door-to-door sale, I don't want to have to wait 3.5 weeks, okay, in terms of a residential installation backlog before that plastic goes on the wall. I want to get in, I want to get out, I want to hopefully have that installed in the next 4 to 5 days. And so you've got to make sure that the installation teams are also geared up. And part of what I really encouraged was in my sales organization, and still do, is make sure that the sales managers work very, very closely with the operations and with the installation managers. I mean, the sales meeting every Monday morning or every Friday morning isn't a secret. It's okay to invite other people. Invite the installation team. Invite the operations people in. Let them know what's going on, okay? And conversely, I expected my sales managers to be sitting in on their operation management and on installation meetings every week as well, so that they could share problems, ideas, best practices, and if there were some issues regarding backlog and pipeline, we could identify that very, very quickly. So I mentioned, a couple of the attributes in terms of who we might want to try to look for when we look for sales guys and ladies. And I have to tell you that very successful door-knocking people are, in fact, women. It is not necessarily, our industry is not something that women automatically gravitate to. They don't wake up in the morning and say, should I do this, go into journalism, should I do this, or do I really want to get, make sales door to door? But I'm here to tell you that in my experience, female sales reps are highly, highly successful, and they're particularly successful going door to door. So you want to look at confidence, you want a passion, you want a fire in the belly, okay, of people. And you want people. You want people that enjoy talking to other people, okay, and have a certain personality. I mean, it's not, hey, how you doing? My name's Jay, and I'm here to talk to you about a security system. The door gets slammed in your face. Instead, you want to have people that are, hi, how you doing? Have some energy, and are hardworking and organized. All right, that
Pardon me, Jay. Jay, I hate to interject, but I just want to check and make sure that I don't think we're seeing the slides progress, and I didn't know if you were progressing them on your end. I just wanted to check and see if we were having technical difficulty or if maybe it's on our end.
Well, we may be having some technical difficulties here. Let me see. I have been advancing the slides.
Okay, I am seeing your screen now. I think we have your screen now.
Can you see it now? Okay.
We do
now.
Well,
sorry about that, guys.
All right,
sorry about that, guys. A little technical glitch there, but hopefully what I'm saying is making some sense to you, okay, in terms of some of the elements we've talked about so far. And again, briefly, we talked about what is it we're going to talk about today. We're talking about how 80% of the time, chances are you're going to be knocking up your sales. Commission plan, as I said, quick installation, having the right materials, the type of people that we're looking for, and obviously people that can cope with rejection. I mean, this is if you've got people that are used to doing phone sales, other kinds of retail environments where people say, I'm not interested. They have people hung up on them. even people from the blood bank I've used in the past, all right, that have called out trying to get people to come down and give blood, and a lot of times things are inconvenient to talk to that person, and so they get a lot of hang-ups and a lot of rejection. You want people that are able to take that all in and just sort of keep going. And they're out there. But as I said, you're probably going to 80% of the time be replacing the people in the first 90 days or so that you hire. Daily profile, as I said, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to door knocking, it is all about the activity. It is all about making sure that the reps are out there. 40% of the time, at least, they're going to be cold calling, and I would expect that on a daily basis. Outside appointments, writing presentations, researching. I mean, a lot of what we're going to talk about today is more residentially oriented, but at the same time, this applies on the commercial side too. And I have a commercial team that ranges from guys selling one-camera packages to bodegas to $100,000, 50 to 100 camera plus integrated enterprise level kinds of sales. And it's all about the activity and making sure that the sales managers are following up, or you're following up on your team. You got to be knowledgeable, first of all, about the product. When you're standing on somebody's front porch, you got to give them a 30-second elevator speech in terms of why you're there and why it's important that they talk to you, and more than that, invite you into their living room or into their office. Okay? I worked for a guy that said, you know what? You can have the best salesperson in the world. They know how to close. They know how to overcome objections. They know how to really handle a customer. But at the end of the day, they've got to know the product, and they've got to demo the product. Tell me, show me the demo. Do a demo for me. And he was all about the demo. And you know what? It makes a lot of sense when you think about it, that it's hard to talk about something, particularly in terms of technology, unless you can really demo it. Stay organized. I work with some guys that are door knockers that they are the most organized people in the world. You open up their car trunk, and they have 45 different file cases, all subcategorized, alphabetized. I mean, you name it, they've got it, okay, in that trunk. And you need that, because I've made cold calls with folks. Okay, I made a cold call about a year or so ago with somebody, and we were working the streets. We were going door to door. We must have done at least 60, 70 different homes, and lo and behold, holy moly, somebody actually invited us in. And we said, oh my goodness, how you doing, and this and that. We did the sales pitch. An hour and a half later, the guy gets the order, reaches into his briefcase, no contract. No contract. Oh, I forgot him. Oh, shucks, I didn't put any in my briefcase this morning. Well, I happen to have one, okay, and he and I had a little talk afterward. But the idea is, you've got to be organized, and it's not just contracts and literature and stuff like that. My advice to everybody on the call is to really make sure in an organized way how you are fielding your cold calling teams. Okay, simply giving them a brochure and a clipboard and a contract and saying, okay, point the car east, that's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is to make sure at a sales meeting on Monday morning, everybody gets a map. Everybody says, all right, look, we are going to be concentrating on just this zip code. Joe Maserats, I want you here on these streets. Susie, I want you to be doing this. Jay, I want you to be doing that. And in a very organized, military, tactical kind of a way, you begin to execute a door-to-door strategy. Now, it also helps if you sort of pave the way, again, torturing this military metaphor by using some tools like Salesforce and Sales Genie, things like that, to maybe try to do some pre-mailings. Maybe it's just an 8.5 by 11 letter by Jay that says, hey, how you doing? I'm running a special for the spring. And when you knock the door where that you sent that letter or that postcard to, it's like, hi, how you doing? I'm Jay Stuck. Listen, I just sent you a letter about a week ago. Did you get it about our spring special? Oh, you didn't? Well, let me tell you about it. Oh, you did? Well, do you have any questions? See, it helps if you sort of soften up the cold call beforehand by trying to do a little bit of marketing. But the important thing is that you're in an organized way attacking block by block, street by street. And oh, by the way, that's how the summer sales companies do it. And you know what? You can rail against the summer sales companies, and you can say, yeah, but they do this and they do that, and oh, by the way, isn't it terrible? They do. You know what? These are folks that are selling hundreds of thousands of systems a year, and they have transformed our industry. And what they do needs to be respected, and how they do it needs to be learned. So it is all about planning. It's all about, and again, the old adage is plan your work and then work your plan, okay? You just can't have people out there randomly. And I think the other important thing, particularly in terms of when I'm standing on somebody's front porch, number one, I've got to look good. It's hot weather, you know, I can have a short sleeve shirt on or a golf shirt with company logo, badged, all right? Frankly, I like to have my team, you know, wearing a tie. I don't want to see some guy, you know, standing on my front porch talking about protecting my wife and my family, okay, in some sort of torn golf shirt with gravy stains on it, okay, it looks like he hasn't had a salad in like the last 5 years. I want an IBM looking kind of a man or woman standing on my front porch, particularly when they say they're there to sell me about life safety. At the end of the day, what we do as an industry and what we do as a sales representative or a sales consultant or a life safety consultant in our industry, we protect people's lives. What we do has gravity. There's not a lot of people that can say that. They're military, police, EMS, first responders, firemen that save people's lives, and security, sales people. And at the end of the day, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, you know what? The company got their money's worth today, and the families that I talked to today at least I can look at myself in the mirror and say, you know what? I try to give them the absolute best level of protection for their family. At the end of the day, they elected to try to go in another direction, but you know what? I still try to give them the ultimate level of protection. What we do has gravity, and I want to see that as I'm standing on somebody's front porch, that there's a sincerity there that you can't imitate and you can't fake, okay, when it comes to talking about saving lives. And oh, by the way, fire is a very, very important cold calling tool. You'd be amazed at the number of people that will say, oh, listen, I got a security system, or I got bars, and I got a dog. But you know what? The dog can't call the fire department. And when you're out and your pooch is at home, okay, and a fire breaks out, who's going to protect Rover? Monitored fire is a very, very important sales hook, okay, on somebody's front porch, and I would play that up. In addition to the kinds of technology that's out there today, I mean, all of us are, you know, looking at ADT ads with Pulse and Total Connect with Honeywell and Alarm.com, and it's all great, all right, but it's sexy. You've got all of these different technologies, and you're interacting with the brand, and it's opening up another 20 million homes to a potential, you know, security sale. I got all that. But you also have to be able to explain that in a very coherent, very quick way. Hi, how you doing? Jay Stuck. Listen, I want to talk to you about a security system. How valuable would it be for you to get a notice that Johnny comes home at? I notice you've got some trikes in the driveway here, and you must have school-age kids. Would it be worth it to you to get a text message, okay, every day at 3 o'clock that your daughter or your son came home? Well, we can do that. Would it be worth it for you to, from your cell phone, be able to look in and see that Johnny's doing his homework? Well, we can do that. Listen, I'd love to come in and just tell you a little bit more about that. That's the kind of a pitch, okay, today that a lot of people would find could have some resonance. As I said, activity is the key. You just can't randomly be putting people out onto the streets. And you've got to have, you know, I've always tried to pair up young recruits with some of the experienced door knockers. And I've been very blessed in my career of working with people that literally, you know, cut their teeth, literally selling vacuum cleaners, okay, door to door, fuller brushes, okay, for those who remember what those were back in the 40s, 50s, and early 60s. people who know their business when it comes to door knocking. One of the top performing top 10 reps on my team in a previous life was like 70 years old. And he would literally, I mean, he was physically out of shape. He was not in the best condition in terms of, you weren't going to see him out there knocking 150 doors a day. He was a little overweight, but he would come, like Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman. He would come schlepping this humongous briefcase up a front walk, and he would leave it halfway up the front walk, and he'd knock on your door. And he'd be mopping his brow, okay, sweat coming off him as you open the door, and he'd say, "Hey, how you doing? Listen, my name's Joe. I really got some important stuff to talk to you about regarding life safety and regarding protecting your home from fire and intrusion and a burglar. And listen, would you mind, it is like an incredibly hot day, would you mind helping, like carrying my briefcase in?" And believe it or not, the person at the door invariably would come down off the front porch, go down, grab and retrieve this guy's briefcase, and bring it into the living room for the guy. Now, do you think that that guy didn't have a high percentage of close after getting the person who answers the door to carry his briefcase into the house? Of course he did. All right? Was a lot of it an act? Yeah, but you know what? It also worked, okay? A lot of it was also true, and that physically he was getting winded. But the idea is that you got to use what you have, okay? And it was a technique. So I mentioned that referrals and activity are linked and important. You're going to burn out. As I said, you can't knock 100 doors a day. You can't do it. I mean, people are just literally, they will bleed out of their eyeballs. There have to be some other things that they do in terms of trying to generate leads. And the best thing to do is referrals, okay? Have referral programs put in place. And again, you can incent your sales organization, your cold callers, your door-to-door people that, for X number of referrals, they can get a gas card. In order to do this, you can get this. But the bottom line is you not only refer the sales rep and incent the sales reps to get referrals, you can also incent the installation team, and you can also incent the customer. And look, for $150 or for $200, Mrs. McGillicuddy, who else in your family can I also protect, just like I'm protecting you today? I'll give you $200 for everyone that closes. And we find those programs to be very successful, and we find that the best sales reps, particularly the best cold calling reps, are the ones that are working their referral base as opposed to physically going door to door. That's for the rookies. For the experienced folks, those are the people that know how to do referrals, get testimonials, make site sellers, and brag books. Everybody know what a brag book is? Brag book is something where, hey, I work for Secure Rush 24, or I work for Joe Maserat's company. And we're kind of a hot and happening company here in Indianapolis. Here's a recent article about us in Security Systems News. And, you've made the right choice today. As by having me in and having me talk to you about, protecting your home in terms of fire and burglar. And, I just want to show you a couple of letters from other people, okay, just like yourself, okay, just like me, that I'm pretty proud that I was able to protect. And, you show some letters, and the bottom line is you've got some reference selling materials in front of the customer. It's not, take my word for it. It's, here are other people just like you that have, had a similar kind of an issue. So I mentioned also incenting the installation team. Absolutely, make sure that the installation, the installers have some sort of a percentage commission on upsells. If they're able to do some add-ons, okay, on site, make sure that they have, they have some skin in the game in terms of being able to make a little money by doing some upsells. Give them the opportunity to do that in terms of having a customer-facing list with MSRP pricing so that it's a no-brainer that the installation guy or lady can simply just pull this out and say, look, I've got an extra smoke detector on the truck for an extra $140. I can put this in right now. Just give me your credit card, okay? And have a mechanism in place, obviously, where that sort of thing can be charged, and then make sure that the guy can get a couple of % as a result of that. Existing customer visits, takeover opportunities, all of those things need to be tracked, all right? You need to understand backwards and forwards the metrics of your door knocking sales organization. How many door knocks is Jay doing? How many door knocks does Jay do that result in an appointment or a presentation? What is his close rate? What is the door knock to sale rate? I mean, all of those things are metrics that I would look at on a global basis every day and for every rep, and have an opportunity to really do a deep dive into the performance of every sales rep in every office. And again, we would ask the sales reps to keep track of all of the different activities, including the mailings, follow-up phone calls, all of those things, all right, that sales manager and the sales and the guy in charge of sales or lady in charge of sales had to keep track of. Because when somebody walks into my office, my boss, and says, well, what is Tara up to, or what is Sarah doing, I got to be able to tell them that, well, Tara actually, has made 45 phone calls in the last 3 days, and she's out there today in the Bronx door knocking, and she's doing this, and she's, she actually sent out 200 postcards in the last week. You as a manager need to know those kinds of stats and those kinds of metrics. Job starts. How many folks out there require their sales rep to go back on a job start, the day that it's getting put in the wall, to go back to their customer? It is an ideal opportunity, all right, to say, hey, how you doing, Mrs. McGillicuddy? Listen, I just want to swing by. I want to make sure here that Joe, he's one of our best installers, that Joe's doing his job, and I'm here to answer any questions you've got. Joe and I can do that. Oh, Mrs. McGillicuddy, listen, I got a little something for you. I got a little flowers here for you. I stopped off. Look, it's a little something, okay? I mean, for $5 I went over to ShopRite and got you some flowers. I thought I'd put it in your kitchen here, and I just want a little bit of appreciation, all right, for the sale. You want to get really fancy? Give people, fire extinguishers, or give them a smoke detector, or, but a little thank you, minimally a thank you note from a sales rep for every sale. And in that note, it's okay to ask for a referral. It's okay to say, hey, Mrs. Tara, thank you very much. Really appreciate the sale. You've made absolutely the right choice. Listen, I know I asked you this, but please call me, because we've got a great program underway for referrals. I'd be happy to, to give you, a sizable reward for every referral that you give me that results in a sale. I mean, minimally a handwritten thank you note, and frankly, in my company and in the previous company that I worked for, we had these thank you notes that we would equip the sales reps with, and it was a company-provided type of thing. It was considered collateral. But going back on the job, now also, going back on a job start is an ideal opportunity for clover leafing. And I'm pretty sure everybody on the phone call knows what clover leafing is, but basically that's, we're going and then, 7 houses, 10 houses in a radius around that customer or that installation, and knocking on the door and saying, hey, how you doing? Listen, I'm Jay Stock. Listen, you might notice that we've got a SW24 security systems truck parked about 3 houses down. Don't be alarmed. The Adams are putting in a security system, and while that's going on, I just thought I'd pop over, and I got my installer right here. I'd love to tell you some of the latest technology, and oh, by the way, would it be useful for you to know that your son or your daughter came home from school and get a text message, or maybe take a look from your office, okay, as to what's going on in your living room? I mean, the security systems aren't really what you think they might be. They've really changed in the last couple of years. Boom, you're in, okay, and it's clover leafing. At the very least, give your reps some door hangers so that they can go, a couple of blocks in every direction and hang some door hangers. Do not hang them on mailboxes. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to touch mailboxes, but it's okay to hang something on a screen door or on an inside door. And again, that was standard operating procedure with our cold calling teams. I talked about activity tracking. And as a manager, you've got to know the metrics. And I come from an environment that says, you know, you cannot manage it unless you can measure it. So it's all about knowing how many mail-outs, how many doors were knocked, closing percentages, how many door hangers. I mean, and the sales managers were held accountable for these stats, and they held their people accountable. And these were just need-to-knows. And, you know, we're not paying people a salary to sit home. And it's okay to work a phone. It's okay to do this and try to call this, and that's fine, okay? I'm not going to micromanage you in that way. But at the end of the day, I want to see activity. And I want to see it tracked in a way that this is a commercial tracking form. For a commercial sales consultant, I have versions that are for residential as well. But the idea here is that, you know, how many referrals did you ask for? What was the goal? What was the actual number of referrals obtained? How many new businesses did you knock? Okay, how many takeovers did you do? Did you work the phones? Okay, tell me how many cold calls you made on the phone. Existing customer visits, how many of those did you make, and when did you make them? Affinity partnerships, mail-outs, follow-ups, how many job starts did you do? In other words, this is a written record, so that if you, at the end of the day, have to actually terminate somebody for non-performance, you have a record here that says, oh, by the way, you know, this isn't just me not liking the way Jay Stuck's tie, okay, looks today, and summarily firing him. That there's a paper trail on this, okay? That I've coached Jay for the last 60 days. Here are his weekly activity reports. You can see that, you know, he is not doing what I've asked him to do in terms of, you know, quantities and in terms of some of these goals and objectives. There's something tangible there they can always go back to, and these are the kinds of tangible forms that you can manage people to. So I mentioned working up the attack grids. Another thing I would do in my cold calling teams, okay, is that I expect you to check in with me every morning. I don't expect that, you know, you have to let me know that you just left this presentation and, you know, you have to call me every hour. I'm not that much of a micromanager, but I ask that you just keep your Outlook calendar up to date so that I know that Tara is in the Bronx today making cold calls, and I kind of know because I've helped her do the grid that I talked about, where she's calling and on what streets in the Bronx. But, you know, if you're working from home that day or you're going to be, you know, doing some cold calls later in the day, just drop a dime on me. Let me know what you're up to, okay? Hey, this is Jay, boss. I just want to let you know that I'm working from home for another couple hours, and then later on I'm going to be hitting New Jersey, and I'm going to be down in Clifton. Now, we have a sales automation tool here which is called Salesforce. Many of you know Salesforce, and essentially what it is it's an automated way of keeping track of prospects, opportunities. It's a way of measuring in a very concrete way a lot of those activities that I talked about, taking them out of a sheet of paper and a handwritten document, and instead putting it in an IP-based cloud. It allows you to pull a large number of, lot of information about things in the pipeline, the individual performance, numbers of sales. If you haven't seen Salesforce, you might want to check it out, okay, for your business. It's not horribly expensive. Couple $100 maybe to get it set up, and then there's a licensing fee every month of maybe 10 or 20 bucks per user. But it's a great way of really keeping track in a very automated and organized way as to what your activities look like. But at the end of the day, you can still do just a plain old Outlook calendar, which every laptop is equipped with. And I expect that you keep those forms up to date. Now, another thing that we make sure that we do is equip all of our sales reps with iPads or laptops. You cannot stand on somebody's front porch and talk about technology. You cannot sit in somebody's living room or across their kitchen table, across a commercial prospect's desk, and about technology and this hot and sexy new stuff without being able to demonstrate it. And why not show it to them on somebody's laptop? Why not show it to them on a 3G or 4G networked laptop? It is an ideal way to actually do a demonstration. And when I first started in this business about 20-plus years ago, I would have to schlep around a beige plastic battery-operated keypad, and we had these humongous wheeled briefcases that we would have to schlep around. Sometimes they had full panels and things in it. You don't have to do that anymore. As a matter of fact, most of the manufacturers now have a virtual type of a keypad. They have, and you can just pass it right over to the customer and say, look how easy it is. Don't take my word for it. Here, you arm and disarm this Interlogix keypad, or this Honeywell keypad, or this DSC keypad. Right now, just look how easy it is. And it also helps overcome a lot of fear that the customer has. I talked about lead gen sources, Sales Genie, good tool in terms of new mover lists, businesses. It's updated weekly. Again, there's a licensing fee, but it's not horribly expensive, and it's an opportunity to run a series of addresses that you can mail into prior to actually door knocking those same addresses. What other kinds of sources? I hate to say it because we're not ambulance chasers, but if there's a fire in the neighborhood or a gas explosion or something like that, you don't have to scare the heck out of people by standing on your front porch, but you don't even have to refer to it. But the fact is, you're in the neighborhood, okay, after something bad has happened, and it's an edge to keep track of the daily news in terms of what's going on. Make sure you have a customer referral program. It could be 3 months maintenance. It could be a gas card. We would have people that would go down to City Hall and look at property transfers, so that we were able to get ahead of even the new mover lists. Okay, in terms of making sure that that we were the first on the porch. All right. Identify yourself to the community affairs officers. All right, and the local precinct. Make sure that they understand who you are. Say that you'd be happy to do some community fairs down the road, if they're mounting that, or if they wanted to have a neighborhood watch kind of a group and talk about crime prevention tips. You had some generic crime prevention material. Maybe it's McGruff from the NCPC. Maybe some other material. It wouldn't be an advertisement for your company per se. But some basic kinds of evergreen tips in terms of clipping the bushes and making sure the lights are on, stopping the paper, that kind of stuff. That you would be happy to talk about crime prevention, okay, at the next neighborhood watch meeting. Real estate purchases, making sure that you've identified yourself and introduced yourself, even to the volunteer fire department folks. Referral programs. Get to know the locksmiths, get to know the window guys, get to know the glass replacement guys. Work up some sort of a program whereby if you start to feed your door knocking force some leads, maybe you toke them $100, okay? Or if you've got a lot of money, maybe you can toke them on every inquiry. But I prefer to do those kinds of programs on the sale rather than on the lead. If you're not familiar with Spot Crime, spotcrime.com, look at that. You can get an advisory, and you can set sort of like this invisible fence around your house or your office, and you could get for every misdemeanor or felony that occurs around that radius. It could be a mile, it could be 20 miles. You could get notifications about it. You see some hot spots, you see some stuff happening. That's where I'm going to point my cold calling team. Special package pricing. Senior citizen groups, again, have some specials ready and have some information. Phone calls, we don't necessarily have a lot of time to go over the phone calls at this point, but I'm asked a lot about whether or not there is an opportunity to still do phone calls. I think there is. There are a couple of companies out there. One is called Gryphon, Gryphon, and you have to be very, very careful when doing residential phone calling. Gryphon your sales rep will dial Jay Stuck's home number. It's run through a Gryphon computer, and if Jay Stuck shows up on a do not call list, whether or not it's a local, state, or a national one, that call is not put through. If Jay Stuck's number doesn't show up, then it's put through. Griffin Associates. And there are a couple of companies out there like that. And I highly recommend it. And again, from a cold calling standpoint, we would routinely have, and I routinely have cold calling nights, okay, where we get lists that are pre-purchased of people that have in and don't mind those kinds of calls, and we'll segregate them by zip code. I'll peel off 100 to give it to each of the reps on the team, and we'll bring in some pizza and some Cokes, and they'll off with dollars that night. And then there'll be some awards for the folks that set the most appointments. So I think there is an opportunity for both opt-in phone call lists as well as the kinds of lists that I told you where they're pre-screened. But look, when you talk about cold calling, you cannot ignore local laws. And every day in my job, I am dealing with issues that, boy, I sure wish I had known the day before. At the very least, make sure that everybody that you put into the field is carrying an ID card. It has to be visible. In many cases, the states require that they have a license that is also visible. Okay. Even beyond that, in many cases, I've had customers or prospects that have said, listen, I don't believe, is there some number that I can call? Can I call your boss or somebody at, you say you're with Acme? Let me call somebody at Acme that can prove that you really are an Acme employee. And we will happily give them a number, okay, of somebody to call that can verify that I am who I say I am. Permits, always a problem in terms of cold calling. Large numbers of municipalities out there require that permits be taken. They can be for a day, they can be taken for a week, they can be taken for a month. It depends on the city or the municipality, and it costs some money. For the purposes of this seminar, what I'm suggesting is that you, number one, be aware in your municipalities where you're fielding people what those permits are. I'm not going to tell you to ignore them. I'm going to tell you that you need to understand that you are subject to fines. At the very least, a police car will show up, okay, on the curb and tell your person to move along. So make sure that you understand what the licensing, what the permit requirements are in a particular community. Gated communities, very tough to door knock in a gated community. And in many cases, particularly down in Florida and particularly down in the hotter climates, we just sort of move along unless we're able to actually get in there. Mailboxes, as I said, you cannot touch mailboxes, and don't. At the end of the day, you got to make sure that the people that are having doors slammed in their face and receivers hanging up in their ear all day want to get out of bed today for more of the same. They got to be able to look ahead and not behind, okay? And, at the end of the day, we had in a couple of my previous lives and in my current incarnation, we know that 200 door knocks yield 2 appointments, or 100 yields 1 appointment. So if I have a guy that says, hey, I have door knocked 70 doors today, and I haven't gotten 1 opportunity to make a presentation, I'd say congratulations, you got 30 more doors to do, and you're going to get one. Because statistically, that's the way it works out. And, I got a little quote here from Lou Holtz. It says, life is 10% about what happens to you and 90% about how you react to it. So, you got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and then have at it again. All you can do is the best you can do. And that's all I ask my teams to do, particularly when it comes to cold calling. Garrett?
Sure. So thank you, Joe. We've got we've got a couple of questions here that came across that I would like to get out to you. So number one, how do you prevent burnout, especially during the summer?
Well, I mean, first of all, this is a very timely webinar to have because we're getting into the summer months, we're getting into the spring. I mean, this is an ideal time to, you don't want to be door knocking, when it's 15 degrees outside and sleeting This is a real time to really start to gear up to attack neighborhoods in a very coherent way. You gotta watch for burnout, okay, and you gotta make it fun. You've got to make sure that as you track the activity of people, that if it looks like they're doing a lot but not getting a lot for it, give them a rest, okay? Bring them in the office, give them a day off. In terms of cold calling, again, one of the secrets is that one of the best days to cold call is a Saturday. People are home, first of all. A lot of door knocking happens after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, particularly with daylight savings time. And you got to make sure that people get rested. You can try to make it fun. You can try to mobilize teams. You can try to have some pizza parties. You can up the tailgate, okay, and break out some refreshments. But you got to monitor whether or not the people are getting beaten down, and you've got to make sure that you amp them up. And if it means giving them a day off or so, or it means putting them into some other kind of a back office thing where maybe they can help generate some of these sales leads, maybe make a few phone calls, maybe they can run some names, switch it off. Or also you gotta make it maybe I'll give somebody a couple of days off if they make X in terms of cold call sales. But that's what you pay the sales managers, and that's what you get paid for, to make sure that you're monitoring the energy levels, because otherwise people are just going to drop in their tracks.
Speaking of sales managers, could you dig in a little deeper and talk about the need for monitoring the sales behaviors on the door as they happen? I mean, we've all heard horror stories of coming out of door-to-door sales. So just dig in a little bit about the need for sales supervision.
Sure. Well, let me start by saying that I expect the highest level of integrity from both my sales folks as well as the sales managers. It is understood in the organizations in which I have a role that I would rather you not make that sale if it means you're going to be lying to some 80-year-old woman simply to sell her a security system. That is not our style. That is not the kind of company that I work for, and that's the kind of person that is not going to work for me. So I expect the sales managers to set that level of integrity with their sales teams. That's the beginning. Secondly, it is absolutely the sales manager's responsibility to constantly be out in the field with his or her people. I do not want to see that sales manager in the office. I do, unless it's in the morning. He's making a couple of phone calls. She's getting a couple of, some paperwork issues straightened out, talking the installation. But then I want he or she out into the field doing ride-alongs, coaching, mentoring, particularly the new reps. And the only way that I am going to be able to really improve the overall performance of my sales team is to ride along with them and watch them do sales. And we have sales manager checklists. Trying to improve and hone the skills of the sales organization. And that's what I pay the sales managers to do.
All right, we've got time for one more. I've got a question from one of our attendees here. It says, I'm outside of the U.S. in the Caribbean. Is door knocking a general concept and not dependent on the region or part of the world? Thought it might be interesting for you to share your perspective from your time with ADT.
Very interesting. Yes, in certain parts of the world, door knocking is pretty much unheard of, okay, particularly in Asia. It's in some cases considered very bad form to do it. In others, however, it's as routine as waking up in the morning and pouring orange juice. I think that there are some cultural kinds of things that need to be taken into account. A lot of cultures do not like people to walk up their front walks. I mean, I have actually done cold calls in places like Brazil and in Latin America It is not kosher to or cool, okay, to just walk up on somebody's front porch. As a matter of fact, in many cases, there is no front door. You know, it could be a shower curtain, or in a particularly poor neighborhood, or a you know, favela. You stand in the street and you actually clap your hands, and that becomes the door knock. And you hope that somebody then, you know, parts the curtain and comes to the entrance of the house. So it is cultural, but you know, I think that you know, in North America, it's not considered untoward, and people are used to it here.
Okay. Well, Jay, thank you very much for the informative content, and thanks for joining us and taking some time. Thank you all of you that have attended the webinar. If you haven't already, please be sure to register as a SMP member so you can access a recording of this webinar that can be found at www.esaweb.org/SMP Resource Library. And if you'd like CEU credit for attending the webinar, please contact Jacqueline Sion at the email address which is on your screen. So thanks again to everybody that attended. I hope you guys have a great day.
Hey, thanks everybody. Take care now.